Welcome back to the channel, long time no see. So I thought we'd do an unboxing review today as it's a bit wet and rainy here, so apologies if you're hearing the rain hitting the top of the roof. So we're starting off today, we're going to do a review of ICM's brand new tooled 148 scale B-26 Marauder. So personally I've been waiting for a new tooled B-26 for a long time. Finally ICM have come along giving us a kit. So we'll have a look through it today and see what we think. So starting off, box art. Absolutely stunning in my opinion, really nice. Couple of B-26s on mission over France. Yeah, what more can you expect? Really inspiring. Really makes you want to build the model itself. So starting off, I'll have a quick look around the box. So on the underside here, we've got the usual sort of bump about the aircraft, a little bit of information there. And on the other side, we've got the actual marking schemes themselves. So we're actually given 3 options, which we'll have a look at as we go forward. So being an ICM kit, it's provided in a really nice sturdy box. There's a kind of, I suppose, an outer or a lid that goes over the top. And then as you can see here, we're given a really nice sturdy cardboard box for keeping the parts in. Quite handy, you can just take the top off this and use this for building or putting your parts in when you're building the model themselves. But we're greeted by sprues in usual ICM packaging. So we've got 2 bags here with all the parts, all the plastic in it. So we'll have a look at that in a minute. We've also got an advert for ICM's own acrylic paints, if you want to go down that route as well. We've got colour, looks like a poster, decals, stickers, transfers, whatever you want to call them, and the instruction manual itself. So we'll start off with that. Seems to make sense. So starting off with the instruction manual, full colour instruction manual, nice glossy paper from ICM. Same thing again, we've obviously got a bit of bump about the actual B-26 as well and the technical specs. The other thing you'll notice here is, so ICM used to be quite good and give you other paint manufacturers options for different colours, but I see now they're actually doing away with that and probably encouraging you to spend money on their own paint. So we'll have to use this to cross-reference across depending on what paint manufacturer you prefer, but that's not a big problem, we're quite used to that as well. And the other thing as well I'm noticing here, we've got a step-by-step video instructions on YouTube, so maybe not worth doing an actual build video if ICM have done one themselves, but we'll look through the kit today anyway. So starting off as you would normally expect, you've got the sprue layouts, so the parts on the sprues, nice and handy for reference, although ICM number the parts, so we shouldn't need to refer back to that, but again it's quite a handy thing to use. And we've got a couple of parts here which we won't be using, so anything marked in red we don't need to use on this particular version of the B-26, but maybe we'll be doing other versions in the future. So starting off as you would normally expect, we're putting the fuselage together, but before we do that we're adding all the interior parts. We've got a couple of holes to open up as well, so just be aware of that. So going forward we've got some of the formers and what have you going through, some of the other interior parts for the bomb bay doors, so if we need to pose them open we need to add these parts at this point. And then we've got the cockpit floor going together, sidewalls coming in. We've got the seats going together as well, so the control, the rudder pedals going in at that point. Center console, throttle console going in there as well. You've got the yokes going together, control yokes, yep, both of them going down into the floor themselves, a few other bits and pieces. Got the bulkheads going together. Looks like we get a wing brace or a wing former, which should help us going forward into the build. We've got the bombs going together as well, so 2 halves. We just join them together and clean up any seams. And then once we've done that, we're actually installing that between these 2 wing spar bulkheads. And then that's going into the fuselage itself along with the cockpit and a few other bulkheads as well. Then we've got the rear, yes exactly, the rear tail machine gun going together and the 2 side waist guns as well, which they all go in, yep, they all get placed in the floor at the bottom there. It's quite interesting, these must slide up during operation, but anyway. Then we're moving on to the top turret, yep, top turret going together as well. We're adding that in, a couple more bulkheads at the same point. And a few other interior parts. So it looks like we're getting a decent amount of parts to make this interior a bit more interesting. How much of it we'll actually see, I'm not entirely sure. But it's nice that ICM are giving you these options to do forward as the modeler. So once we've done one side, we're doing the same on the other, and then we're getting to the point of closing the fuselage together. Just be aware, we need to put 50 grams of weight in here. So you'll have to go off and rob some lead off the church roof. And then once you've done that, we can come back together and we're putting the tail section together. So you've got the horizontal and the vertical stabilizer going in. And you've obviously got the top of the fuselage being placed on there as well. And it's reminding you to paint the inside before you do. Then once we've done that, we've got the control surfaces going in. A few other parts coming in here for the bomb bay doors being open as well. So again, you need to decide that at that point what you're going to build it as. So once we've done that, we've got the bomb bay doors going on, as I say, in the open or the closed positions. We've got a couple more of the chin machine guns going together. And yeah, so basically what it's saying here is we need to put decals or decals on before, and different variants. So again, depending on your marking options, if you're doing 1 or 2, we need to be fitting these. If you do 3, you don't. And then once we've done that, we've got the actual cockpit itself coming in. We've got the rear blister going on for the rear machine gun. We've got the machine gun being fitted to the nose section as well. And that's obviously coming in. And we've got the top of the cockpit going in as well. We've got a couple more parts to go in before we actually assemble the wings on, which are going together here. So we've got wheel wells to build up as well. We've obviously got the flaps and the ailerons being installed at this point. It looks like we hopefully we'll be able to pose these in positions if we need to. Obviously you can have it flaps down, a little bit of movement on the ailerons always looks quite nice. And then we've got a few other parts going on the underside of the wings. Got the wingtip lights going on, pitot tube and what have you. Leave that off to the end of the build personally. But anyway, moving forward, so we've got the other side to do, so it's just basically rinse and repeat for the other side of the wing. Same thing again. Yep, right the way through till we get to the engines. So it looks like we get a fairly detailed engine going together. That looks pretty good. There's obviously exhaust coming in the back of there as well. And we've got other parts, the manifolds coming in. And then we've got the cowlings going together. So it looks like we might be able to pose cowl flaps open. Although I'm not entirely sure, we'll need to look at that. But as I say, cowlings going onto the engine itself, a few other bits going on the actual nacelle before we join the two halves together with a couple of bulkheads, and then as I say, the engine coming on the front as well, and then we're offering that up to the underside of the wing. And same thing, rinse and repeat for the other side. And then once we've done that, we're adding the wings on. So as I said before, we've got these wing spars. So what I'm hoping is that this will be a good enough fit that we could possibly paint the wings and the fuselage separately and then add it together later on in the build, as we did with the Hong Kong models Lancaster. But we'll see later on down the line. So we're moving forward. We've got the nose gear section going together. You've got things like the boarding access ladder coming in there at the front as well. We've got gear doors going together. I'm just seeing if there's an option for that. Doesn't say it's an option, but as I say, it depends on what you want to do with it. So once we've done that, a few other bits and pieces coming in, just the gear going together. We've got the actual main gear as well, so it doesn't look too bad, to be honest. Should be nice and sturdy, particularly if we've got 50 grams of weight in this model. I don't want it to be looking too shaky on its undercarriage. So once we've done that, we've got the gear doors coming together, the wheels coming together to two halves, and the hubs are separate, so it'll be nice and easy to paint. A couple of the aerials and lumps and bumps going on the underside as well. Wheels going on, and then the props coming together, and then we're pretty much there. Yep, pretty much there, just the last sort of things, the aerials and what have you to do for your rigging for your antenna. And then we're moving on. So so just a little thing here, my personal experience. So this is obviously a template for masking up the clear parts. I'm hoping that these are correct. What I mean by that is, my experience in the past is every time I've used these to try and mask the canopies on other ICM kits, they've been the wrong size. They've been either slightly too big or slightly too small. So it's a little bit frustrating. I mean, they've gone to all the effort of giving you a template, but actually it's nowhere near being close. So it's a little bit frustrating when you get to that point and you realise that, you spent all this time masking it up. You put your Tamiya tape over the top, draw around it or cut around it, and then go to offer it to the clear part, and it doesn't fit. A little bit frustrating. But they do a good job of explaining where all these parts are meant to go. So I really am hoping, as I say, that these are the correct size, but we'll find out later on down the build. Fingers crossed anyway. So anyway, moving on. So onto the marking schemes. So we get 3 different schemes. So you got the classic sort of olive drab over neutral grey, and I believe all these schemes come with quite distinctive invasion stripes on them as well. So it should be quite nice to see. So we've got one here for Ladies Delight from the 584th in England, 44. So that's quite a nice one there. And then we're moving on. So we've got another one here, Natural Metal Finish Bird. This one's Coral Princess the 3 from the 494th in France, 44. And then finally, which is the one that's taken my eye, is this one here, the Big Hairy Bird from the 599 in France, 44. So again, natural metal, invasion stripes, but we've got some nose art on it, so that's what's appealing to me. So we'll have a look at the decals, decals, or water slide transfers next, because that seems to be the obvious thing to do. So I've got the markings here. So having a look at them, they don't look too bad. I mean, they're in register. There's probably more carrier film than what I would like to see, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, you can go around and cut this out. What I mean by, if you look on like this F here, we've got a lot of carrier film, and even around some of the stencils as well. There's a fair amount there, but I'm hoping they look to be thin enough that I think once we get them on and get them set into place using some setting solutions, and then come back with some clear coats to bury them in, it should be okay. But no, it doesn't look too bad. Like I say, they're nice solid colour, they're in register. Unfortunately, they're not cartograph or what have you. But yeah, they should do the job. Don't look too bad. Okay, so moving on. So the only other thing that we get is... yeah, so this is... hopefully you can see that there. This is a poster that ICM have given you of the box art with a calendar on the bottom. Now, my personal opinion is that's great and all, but we're already into April, so we've lost the first 3 months of this. So, you know, yeah, up to yourself. I would have rather just had, you know, forget about the 2024 and what have you. I'll just have, you know, a nice poster of the actual box art. But hey, something to stick up on the wall. We can mark in all the model shows and what's coming up in the year. So anyway, so starting off, yeah, we'll start off with this one here. So the usual way that ICM do it, so nice and secure packaging. So some of the sprues obviously held together in this sealing bag. Apologies for the rustling. We've got clear parts there as well. So we'll have a look at them in a minute. So we'll start off with this sprue here. So we've obviously got the, well, we've got the top and the bottom of the wing. So it's not looking too bad. So we get some nice riveting detail here. I mean, not excessive. We've not got the sort of formers being riveted in the wings, but there's nothing stopping you doing that yourself. What I tend to find, ICM kits are really, in my opinion, really good. They go together really well. They give you a good level of detail, but it's a good basis to go off if you want to add to that, you know, aftermarket scratch building, or if you want to come in here and rivet this yourself, you could do. But as I say, all the essentials you need are here in the kit. So we get some nice sort of forming on the actual control surfaces as well, because obviously these are fabric, so that's representing the sort of ribbing. We've got the cockpit floor here as well. So again, I mean, we're not talking excessive levels of detail, but it's not too bad. Nice and crisp. There's nothing really sticking out. There's no... I mean, we've got ejector pins, but they're not in any place they're really going to give us a lot of bother. So it doesn't look too bad. So yeah, it looks alright. Quite happy with that. Although I have just noticed the pitot tube on the actual wing, so that'll definitely need to be cut off, because, you know, I always seem to break them off when I'm building things. So just be aware of that. So the next sprue, we've got some of the actual tail planes and some of the bulkheads as well. So hopefully you can see all this detail. So we've got some nice raised and recessed detail there. ICM's tooling's really come on in the last few years. Some of the older kits are maybe a bit of a handful, but certainly their new offerings are absolutely fantastic. And this is certainly stacking up to be one of those new kits that I think will do really well for ICM, especially being a Ukrainian company. I think we have to support them as much as we possibly can. But anyway, we're not going to get into politics on this channel. So we've got basically a copy of the other sprue we're looking at, obviously the other wing as well, and the actual engine nacelles. So again, looking here, we've got some really fine detail, really nice to see. So there's got some raised actual detail on the side here and some recessed rivets. So this is all looking pretty good. Nice and crisp. What you tend to find is ICM plastic's quite soft. So you can see there's a lot of flex in the sprue. So some people believe, you know, by the time I get the wing together, this is really quite flexible. But in my opinion, they're really well designed kits. Once you get them all together, as I say, there's enough support in the kit to hold it all together. We get a couple of formers in the actual nacelles as well. And the only thing I would say is we've got a couple of ejector pins, which, to be fair to ICM, they put them in places that we can actually take care of them quite easily. So you just need to come in here with a skinny sanding stick or what have you, and just take them out. And same on the other side as well. We get a little bit of detail obviously raised on the underside for the actual wheel well itself. So not too bad at all. And then we get the second bag, which contains a lot of the smaller parts and the fuselage itself. Again, apologies for the rustling on camera. So we'll have a look at the fuselage. So there we go. So same thing again. Obviously we've got recessed panel lines and what have you, a couple of bits of raised detail as well. But really, really nice and crisp. What I'm enjoying about ICM's tooling is, you know, the molds are really good quality. We don't really have too much fading off. What you tend to find on some other manufacturers is you go round the corner, the details tends to fade off, just obviously limitations of the mold. But ICM seems to be doing a really good job recently. And same thing again, so we've got formers on the inside of the fuselage, adding a little bit extra detail. But we do have a couple of ejector pins, but as I say, they're in an area we can take care of them, so I'm not too worried about it. And because it's soft plastic, it won't take long to make them disappear. A couple of swipes of the sanding stick. So the next one we've got two sprues, which are the same. Yep, they look exactly the same. Two sprue Ds, so we'll just look at one of them. So having a look here, so we've obviously got parts of the engine. So we've got the prop coming in here. Again, really, really nicely molded. There's no sink marks in it or any mismolds that I can see. We've got the tires going on here as well. Again, good level of detail there. I imagine there'll be companies jumping on this kit aftermarket. You'll get resin replacements and what have you. But as I say, what you're actually given from ICM themselves is really pretty good. So just having a look around here, we've obviously got some of the cockpit parts. You've got the control yoke going together. Some of the bombs as well. Got some of the engine parts. But as I say, there's no real flash on the kit. There's no real burring. So again, parts cleanup should be nice and easy, nice and quick. Obviously, you've got the actual main engine here as well. Some of the exhaust parts. Same thing again. Even things like the machine gun. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, that's really, really nicely molded. Really, really fine and crisp. And I think, like I say, it shows the quality of ICM's molding nowadays. It's just absolutely fantastic. I mean, we've got parts here like this. I mean, look at that. That's really, really nice. On the gearbox reduction on the front of the engine. And the same thing here. So we've got gear doors, but we've got no ejector pins in them. Brilliant ICM. Absolutely fantastic. Same thing again. Yeah, just looking around the sprues, it's really, really nice kit. Yeah, I'm really quite pleased with this, to be honest. This is looking really good. So we've got some of the gear parts coming together as well. The actual main gear legs. So again, they're nice and sturdy. I shouldn't have any problems with that at all. We're not going to have a bomber that's looking as though it's kind of, you know, squatting down. But here, you've got some of the detail here on the bomb racks. That's really, really nice. By the time we get some paint on here and a bit of a wash, this will really make the detail pop out. Obviously got the nose gear here as well. Really, even on these parts, there's no flash. There's very little burring. As I say, you're not going to have to go around and scrape clean these too much. As I say, the only quibble I can come up with is these ejector pins, but they're really not in a place that's going to cause too much of a problem. Or if they are, as I say, ICM have been clever and put them in areas where we can actually get into. So, yeah, hats off to ICM. As I say, I'm quite a big fan of them and their kits and what they do. So the last sprue here, we've got a lot of the sort of intricate parts. So we've got things like the machine guns, as we've looked at before. Got the boarding ladder here as well. Some of the other parts going together. I think these are some for the bomb bay doors. Some of the gunner's positions, some of these other machine guns as well. Hopefully you can see that. Okay. Really, really nice. No flash, no real burring. No short shots that I can see. Absolutely brilliant. Really, really good. Hats off to ICM. So finally, we've got the clear parts. And an own bag, protected by some polystyrene. And I have to say, they're not too bad. I'm not going to lie here. There is a little bit. There's a tiny bit of it's difficult to see. So you can see there's clarity behind the part. But if you look really closely, and I'm talking really, really critical. I mean, this is being very critical. It's almost as though, it's a weird effect. It's almost as though, can't quite, I don't know how to describe this. It's like it's got orange peel. So it's not, it is crystal clear, but it's slightly deforming things underneath it. I don't know if you can, I don't know if you can see that again, or see it behind my hand. I think this is one of these things where by the time you get masked and painted, where they get the framing in and what have you, you're not going to notice that. But the only reason I'm being a bit hesitant is normally ICM clear parts are absolutely flawless. And I think I'm just being a bit critical about these, to be honest, but if I had to score them, there would be 8 out of 10 instead of the usual 10 out of 10. But don't let you, no, I wouldn't hold that back from getting this kit. As I say, everything else is looking pretty good. By the time you get this all painted up and put on the actual model itself, I doubt we're going to notice it at all. So, there we go. That was ICM's 1/48 scale B-26 Marauder. Highly recommend this kit. As we've obviously gone through it, there's some nice options. Doesn't look as though it's going to be too difficult to build. So we should be able to get it into paint, and then, as I say, the key thing is we can get it in and we can start doing all the weathering and what have you that these bombers encountered during the war. So yeah, as I say, if you're on the fence, you're not entirely sure, I can highly recommend going and getting this kit. I imagine it'll be a good seller for ICM, and the aftermarket companies will jump on and we'll start seeing mask sets and everything else coming out for this. So as I say, guys, thanks for sticking with me, and we'll see you in the next one.